tell us a bit about who you are, and tell us about your tenure at ISB.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. And I am honored to be here. And you asking me these questions is such a full circle-ish moment. But I was at ISB before ISB was as big as it is now. So this was from 2005 to 2007. So I went to 7th and 8th grade over that way. It's funny because at that time, my class was probably the smallest class they probably not ever had, but probably one of the smallest groups they've had. So I've had a really interesting time. I'm really it's one of my favorite times to remember back to. So glad to be here.
I'm so glad to hear from you as well. You knew the school when it was still on Dalmagia Hill.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, it was a trek to get up to. I remember the very, very steep hills that we used to go up. Even driving, it was such a strange experience. I think the first time we went up it for school, it was just like, I felt like it was almost vertical. But it was really fun. It was pretty much near the top, I want to say. I can't remember now, but I loved it. It's beautiful over there. A lot of character, a lot of great people, a lot of small businesses I remember. And the actual building itself was with so much packed into it. And I just remember constantly being surrounded by people and meeting at the faux grass kind of outdoor area with like a playground and a soccer field and whatnot. Relatively small compared to what it is now, but we used to line up there every single morning before we go to class, and it's just a fond memory of mine being out there. And then when the bell rings, you go into school in a line together. So yeah. I think actually my time with the teachers there was probably the most influential, I'd say. Even though it was such a relatively short period of time, it was, like you said, I grew up there. I think because of all the different collection of types of teachers, it's not just from one, let's say, area or a country. They're from all different types of countries. And just being in the presence of each of them was a learning experience in and of itself. But I think especially because of the small classrooms and the detail-orientedness of each teacher to the student-teacher ratio and the care that was behind the educators there, looking back, I could really, really feel it. At the time, I was young, and I don't think I really fully understood what kind of environment I was in. But now I look back, 10 plus years later, and I can truly say it was one of the most influential and most innocent and the most curious time of my life. And the teachers entertained that for me, I think. I actually still to this day talk about some of the experiences I've had there, because not everyone in this world has had a beautiful experience like you get to have at ISB. Yes, I am American. Yes, I am Korean, but also I have this like fond childhood memory of playing rugby or playing cricket for gym class. And I get to talk about that sometimes with my friends and my coworkers, and they're like, "What? Really?" And it's almost like and I get to connect with more than just Americans or just Koreans. I get to connect with so many different types of people, and that's, I think, the most sacred part of my experience there, is that I continue to experience the joys from it. And it sounds really corny, but I promise it's very real. I'd say I didn't have the typical life that I've seen other kids from the school have. So my parents decided to, after consulting me as well, decided to send me off to a homestay in America. So I stayed with two different families actually to go to a public school in America, in the suburbs of Chicago. But it was tough because I went from an 8th grade class of 5 people to a class of just my grade of 1,150 some people. And that
Wow.
was a culture shock. Not just the culture in itself of America and Korea and whatever, but it was and a private school versus a public school, and then the smallness of it, of the and the bigness of the class. It was a lot at once, and I think that was very difficult for me. Went to college in Chicago, Loyola University Chicago, and then kind of took a lot longer than most people, I'd say. And then I got into my broadcasting career, started my career as a TV journalist. In America, the route you take is you go to smaller markets. I don't know if this is like that in other countries, but you go to smaller markets, TV's markets. So like there's a list of all the cities that have the biggest, from the biggest population to the smallest population. And you start at the really small ones across the nation and then kind of work your way up. And so I was out in rural Nebraska for a little bit, then moved out to Colorado. Was in Denver for a little while, Colorado Springs, then Denver, and then I came back to Chicago. And now I work at a national network doing national news. A couple of things come to mind. One, yes, of course, my thoughts were already global at a young age. And so it helped me think bigger and question a lot of things. And there was like, I had to learn a lot of cultural differences at a very young age. And I think that helped me become a more, what's the word, empathetic, but also aware of a lot of intricate details that not a lot of people, I think, really see. And it was hard for me to see that character of myself too. So I'm slowly understanding that about myself. But that is one. Another is because I was seeing so many different people in different cultures, I think I became an observer in many ways. And I noticed that even more when I went to an American school, when everybody had a very similar upbringing and I did not. And I really became the observer. I was the outsider, and I was American, but in my lived experiences, it was very different. And I think that transition especially helped me. Honestly, at the time, it was very confusing, but now it really helped me become more of like the investigator observer, and being an outsider made me feel like I could write about something or talk about something in a very objective manner. And I saw that as an advantage. And I think I naturally gravitated towards journalism. And it's funny because I didn't even set out to be a journalist. I actually went to college to become a medical professional, a doctor of sorts, a geneticist or something like that. I was a biology major. And then halfway through, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore because I clearly don't enjoy what I'm doing. And I randomly took some journalism classes, and I thought I was going to do more like film and like production classes, but I had a very a moment or like a serendipitous point of my life where my life completely changed, and I gravitated towards it so much, and I didn't even realize I was loving it so much, and I just kept doing it, and I somehow I'm here at a national news station still 10 years later. So clearly I enjoy it. But going back to ISB, I really appreciated how much attention each teacher had on me, and how much I actually learned. So I learned so deeply, and like I said before, it was where I became the most curious, and I was able to be completely me and be as curious as possible. And I think part of it, like subconsciously, I kind of gravitate towards that time again because it was such a fulfilling, I think my inner curiosity person, little girl, was really like blossoming then. Your investment now will become fruition in the future, most definitely. In the future, I think you'll appreciate it a lot not just your child, but you yourself and the person that they're going to become, you're going to be proud of them, I think, no matter what. And to be able to share that with the world, I think is awesome. Otherwise, for anybody else, I'd say enjoy it while you can, and really experience everything. Don't put yourself in a pigeonhole. I mean, you can if you want to, and if that's your curiosity, amazing. Enjoy the people. I think the people is what makes life good, and especially there in that community, you'll look back on it and think, wow, those were the times, like I did.